And a lot of fans they did not enjoy what Anthony Joshua brought to the boxing ring yesterday. You were there live. What was the atmosphere like for Anthony Joshua?
So let me just say, Anthony Joshua is one of the few sports stars in the world that brings an atmosphere, that brings the scene. Everyone wants to be there. When Joshua came out, before he had a promo video on the screen where he's doing the introduction to the fight and talking and saying, this is my chance to make a comeback. The lights go off, the fire pyro hits, his music comes on, he has a rapper come out with him, the crowd are screaming, going crazy. Only superstars can create that kind of atmosphere. And Anthony Joshua's ring walk had everyone on their feet, had everyone excited, looking forward to what's going to happen next. Now, I think we can all admit the fight wasn't the greatest fight. It wasn't one of his best performances. But nonetheless, once he had his hand raised, he was declared the winner. He picked up the microphone, he gave a speech to the crowd. People still chant his name. People were still wanting more of him. And what he done once he finished doing his interviews inside the ring, he came out of the ring and he walked around the ring to where the people were. And believe me, as much as people say they're not interested in Anthony Joshua, they were definitely interested in Anthony Joshua. He was shaking hands, giving people hugs, taking selfies. He truly is the people's champion. And stuff like that is what boxing needs. Stuff like that is what sports need. We need these crossover superstars that are bigger than the sport, that are almost seen as icons. So if we take everything into consideration, from the fight, the entrance, the build-up, the sold-out O2 and the aftermath, it was a good experience. It was a win. The Joshua show isn't over. Of course, a lot of experts was expecting him to win by knockout. Even myself, I thought this isn't going to go past 7 rounds, but it's Joshua. He's been at world level. He's been the unified champion. But you know what? Let's take the positives. It's a Joshua win. He lives to fight another day. That opens up the fight potentially with Dillian Whyte. There's other fighters out there who we can go for. So then let's continue what the Anthony Joshua train has to offer.
All right, talking about the knockouts people were expecting to see, I also expected to see Anthony Joshua knock out Jermaine Franklin because you can't compare both fighters. And Anthony Joshua wanted to prove a point. And going all the way to 12 rounds, was that enough points to prove to the world of boxing that he is really back?
In all honesty, no, it wasn't. Before the fight, a lot of experts, a lot of people in the scene said, fair enough, Jermaine Franklin might be a top 10, a top 15 contender. Maybe he doesn't get as much credit as he should do. But if you're Anthony Joshua, who's been a former unified champion, trying to go for undisputed, you should be getting rid of fighters at that caliber within the first half of the fight, within the first 6 rounds. So it's a bit harder now to gauge where his potential may be down the line, how much further he can go. Of course, before this fight, people were talking about a clash of Tyson Fury, up-and-coming British prospects, Joe Joyce. But now a lot of those questions, even Deontay Wilder, the former world champion, but now a lot of questions having to be asked saying, how is he going to fare? How much has he got left to go up against the elite guys? Maybe he can go in the ring with a top 10, but an elite fighter? Questions are now being asked. What a lot of people are saying will probably happen next is the fight with Dillian Whyte. Of course, Dillian Whyte was the guy who originally fought Franklin when he came onto the scene back in November, having a majority points decision. Anthony Joshua done that with a unanimous decision. So yeah, Anthony Joshua done it clearer, more clear-cut, but it still leads up to a very likely matchup. And it's a grudge match from 2015 that they had. AJ won that one. Dillian Whyte won their fight as an amateur. So overall, it's one apiece. They both had silverish performances with Jermaine Franklin. So yeah, why not? It's going to sell in the UK. You'll sell out the O2. You can even put it maybe in Wembley OVO. So I think that'll be the fight next for Anthony Joshua.
All right. Well, Anthony Joshua wants to keep fighting until he gets the chance to take on one of his biggest rivals, the likes of Tyson Fury and possibly Alexander Usyk. But looking at what we saw yesterday and with the training crew that he has, is he anywhere ready to fight Tyson Fury?
Well, of course, going into the fight, he's coming off 2 losses with Alexander Usyk. Alexander Usyk is, before going into the fight, was considered maybe the top 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. So going from a loss to Usyk doesn't necessarily write you off. But at the same time, confidence, mental factor, he's got a new trainer in Derek Williams. He's gone all the way to United States to start his camp from there. A lot of these factors get taken into consideration. Now, from what we saw last night, from that performance, I think a lot of people are turning their heads and not thinking that a fight with him and Fury is going to be as competitive as they thought it maybe would have been 3 or 4 years ago. And as I said, Jermaine Franklin, I'll give him his dues. He was tough. He was taking shots. He was getting hit, but at the same time, he was throwing back. He was responding. He didn't seem out of his depth. He wanted to be there. He wanted to bring it to Joshua. Fair enough, Joshua is a 6'6", muscular, massive heavyweight. He came in at his career heaviest. There was a lot of size advantage. He's obviously an Olympian, former world champion. It was all in Joshua's favor, and Joshua used that to his advantage. But was it clear enough and convincing to say that you're now going to beat the best heavyweight fighter on the planet at this point of time? Myself and a lot of others ringside don't think so. Maybe he needs a few more fights. Maybe he needs to settle in a bit more with Derek James. Maybe he needs a few more months just to grow together, just to warm, just to get his confidence back. Because a lot of people felt that Joshua was a bit gun shy. He threw the jab, he threw him in one right hand every once in a while, but it was just not enough to keep back Jermaine Franklin.
Yeah.
So maybe just put a bit more confidence, be a bit more trigger fiery, and maybe we'll see in his next fight if he's ready to step up to Tyson Fury just yet.
Now, something happened at the end of the fight where it felt like Anthony Joshua was being a bit of a bully to Jermaine Franklin, where he tapped him on his head, and some people saw it as a punch, and it also caused a bit of a scuffle in the boxing ring. That was unnecessary from Anthony Joshua, right?
Yeah, that wasn't necessary. Sort of the bell went. Normally the fighters will touch gloves or come together to show the respect, but he seemed to push his head away, and then they almost engaged. They had their heads clashed together. Of course, last time out against Alexander Usyk, there was a similar thing after the fight where Joshua kind of went a bit off the rails, and I think myself and a lot of people were thinking, oh, is this a similar scenario? Is he about to lose it again? But it was quickly diffused. After this incident, him and Jermaine embraced and kind of showed respect, which you want to see. And yeah, I'm glad that little incident could just be put behind us, and we ain't got to focus on that being the highlight or one of the highlights of the night, like with the Usyk situation last time he was out. So not sure where that came from. Maybe just a bit of pent-up rage and frustration. Ultimately, it is a fight. You know, people do get a bit emotionally invested, but nothing too serious that I think we need to look into forward more.
Now, I'm sure you've seen a lot of fights in your career, but let's talk about the sport now, boxing. Coming from way back, we've seen fighters like Mike Tyson. There's also Muhammad Ali, and a lot of these heavyweight punchers back in the day. Now, compared to what you see now, are you truly enjoying the game, the fights, the boxing that we see these days compared to what we used to have back then? The times of Mike Tyson, you know, we've seen Mike Tyson knock his opponents out in less than 1 round or 10 seconds. We've seen it happen in the boxing ring, but it hardly happens these days. It feels like it's more of a show business. But what's your take? Boxing now and boxing back in the days, which one would you go for?
It's interesting you said that, because Mike Tyson actually said a quote of, the fighters of this day and age, they're different. I was a killer. They're businessmen. And that just kind of explains what you were just saying. A lot of the fighters in this day and age, they understand what it is. They understand that this is a business. Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, they work with some of the top promoters in the world, and they know how much money and time and effort's put into it, all being a stage performance. They're going to build up, they're going to go on social media, they're going to talk, they're going to go to the press conference, they're going to talk, they're going to build up the fight. And yeah, I think another fighter, Frank Bruno, former world heavyweight champion from the United Kingdom, he said that boxing is a pantomime with bloods. And both what Tyson and Bruno said are completely true. The pantomime with bloods, a lot of businessmen in the sport, not as many killers. For myself, do I enjoy it? I do enjoy it. I admit there's certain things that should be better. Fighters should be more prompt to fight each other. The big fights need to happen more. For example, Fury, AJ should happen. Terence Crawford, Errol Spence should happen. Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis, I'm glad that's happening because that's been a long time coming. But overall, for the day and age that we're in and the access that we have to fighters and the information and build-up, I do enjoy it, because boxing is probably one of the biggest drama sports you're going to find. You can't go a week without some kind of interesting story, some kind of events that would happen in no other sport, but it will happen in boxing. And so as a media person working in boxing, it keeps me on my toes. And as a fan in boxing, there's so many stories to access. Like, for example, the fight today, it wasn't just about Anthony Joshua and Jermaine Franklin going 12 rounds. No, it was the comeback. It was the champion making his return. He'd been fighting world title fights for the last 7 years, and now he's taking a step back to try and get back on that pathway again. How's it going to come out? What's he going to do next? After the fight, will he be fighting Tyson Fury, or will he be looking to fight the likes of Dillian Whyte again? So I enjoy this day and age for the stories that are told. I think stories are a big part of boxing. You mentioned you went to watch Creed the other day. Creed's the whole story of Creed and Rocky. They're just multiple boxing stories put together at the most entertaining points, and that's what we enjoy about the sport. So in this day and age, yeah, it could be better, but I enjoy it for what it is.
The next step for Anthony Joshua, what do you think would happen? Where do you think he will go to next? The big wigs, or look for someone who will feel like he can actually dominate?
Well, after last night's performance, I actually spoke to after the fight at the press conference. I spoke to Anthony Joshua's promoter Eddie Hearn, and Eddie Hearn had said before the fight at the beginning of the year, I would like for Anthony to fight 3 times this year, and he emphasized that yesterday as well. He'd like him to fight 3 times this year, once in the summer and once in the winter. I guess I'd say in December. So the next fight rounds, I think a fight with Dillian Whyte would make a lot of sense. It seems about a level fight. They both had fights with Jermaine Franklin. They both took it on points. Joshua probably looking a bit more better. It's a rematch. It makes sense career progression-wise. And once he has the fight with Dillian Whyte, then you can then look on to maybe seeing how you get on. And okay, let's go for the big one. Let's go for a Tyson Fury. Let's go for a Deontay Wilder. And I think that's a good career progression. Because if Joshua was to get in there with Franklin and blow him away, we'd all be saying, oh, there's no need for him to fight Dillian Whyte. He's just going to beat him too. But the fact that they both went on points, AJ didn't look spectacular. There was a few things about AJ that we could say, I'm not sure how he's going to fare that with Whyte. So I think him fighting Dillian Whyte next, probably at the O2 Arena. I know he would like to do Wembley. AJ, before the fight, he mentioned he'd like to fight back at the stadiums again. But I think he still needs a bit more time, another fight to build up his star power. Have the fight with Dillian Whyte in summer, then Tyson Fury end of the year, Wembley Stadium, biggest fight in UK boxing history. I think that's the path that he's probably looking to go down.
All right, we'll see how that goes for Anthony Joshua and his team, and of course, his promoter, Eddie Hearn. Well, thank you very much, Rakeem Noble, for joining us all the way from London. Thank you very much.
Thank you.